Okay, welcome to the 1:30 meeting of VOCC. Department updates. Dana, I guess you gave us some stats here, I see.
Good morning, commissioners, or afternoon, I should say. So you each should have some stats in front of you. I just kind of did a random toll of 2025 as to 2024. So as you can see, we had like only 3 less total cases in 25 as we did in 24. But our ME cases, which are ones that we take jurisdiction over, we had 73 more in 25 than we did in 24, which is a lot. Some of those are going to be because we took jurisdiction over like a nursing home death or a hospice death because it's due to a fall instead of their natural causes. But that I didn't get broke down. But 73 is a lot more calls that we're responding to houses and stuff. This year alone, we've already had 80 calls out just from the first of the year. And we have had a very busy couple of months. December itself was, I think on the second page, you can see December of 24, we had 27 call outs. And then January of 25, we had 24. December of 25, we had 34. In January, we had 35. So it's been pretty busy, and it's been getting, our call load has been up a lot.
Dana, what does ME stand for?
The medical examiners.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the ME cases are ones that we take jurisdiction over. The non-ME cases are ones that are like nursing home, hospice. They still in hospital ones. So if somebody's died in the hospital within 24 hours, sorry, they still have to contact us. And then we have to see whether it needs to be an ME case or it's something we can release. So we still look into those. So as you can see, naturals 725 as to in 24 it was 893. Accidents are up 21 more accidents than in 24. So we had 115 in 25 and 94 in 24. I kind of broke it down for you. The drug-related overdoses were down. We had 11 less than in 24. We had 62. We had 51 in 25. We've had some more alcohol-related deaths than we have in the past. I don't have those numbers because I don't really think that we really had them in 24, but we've had intoxicating levels. Fentanyl, as you can see, it's almost not quite half of what it was in 24, but that's gone down. Cocaine is up 1. Methamphetamines is higher. Meth, of course, is still the drug of choice, but we're also now seeing a lot higher doses. So let's see here. I don't think you have this one, but I made some notes. So we just got a cocaine overdose. The toxic levels was 15,000, and usually the tests that we do, the amount that they test from and up is 100 nanograms per milliliter. This one was 15,000. That's the highest I've seen. So, and then fentanyl doses is a lot higher also. It used to be 0.5 nanograms per milliliter was what we kind of went off of that would kill you. We're seeing in the hundreds. Our highest was 340. So the strengths that are out there now are, it's just getting higher and higher.
Is
So-
it because they're building up tolerance or
I-
they're
I
taking something they
think-
don't know
I
what's in it?
think that, well, yeah, that's always the case. But I think that the manufacturers are just, it's higher strengths.
Huh.
And of course, they really don't know what they're doing, so they're just pressing stuff together. And we're still seeing a mixture of a lot of things. Cocaine, is another one. We're also seeing the cocaine and alcohol, which is not a good combination. So mixing the cocaine and alcohol together causes a toxic effect. So we see a lot of the alcohol with the cocaine also, so.
Are the alcohol related ones, does that include drunk driving or is that motor vehicle accidents and VAs?
So those are just overdoses. The 5 on the under the accidents are just for like it kind of broke that out of the actual drug. So I think with the drugs is 51, and then you add 5 more into that. So it's actually 56. But I separated the alcohol from the actual illegal drug substance.
So that's like somebody alcohol poisoning or something?
Mhm.
They-
Yeah.
Wow.
So we've had 5 of those. Like I said, we usually don't have those. It's like mixture and stuff, but some people have a pretty high tolerance. There's been a couple of them that were withdrawals. They just, go off cold turkey, and then they have the alcohol withdrawal because they have the high tolerance for that. So down on motor vehicle accidents, I tried to break that down. I did not from 24, but for 25. So we had 15 motor vehicle accidents and 24, 17 and 25. But then I also went back to their toxicology. And with those 17 motor vehicle accidents, 8 of those had either drug or alcohol in them. So 4 was alcohol and 4 were other. So, and I think the others were mainly methamphetamines. So. Homicides, thankfully, we're down on those. We had 2 last year as to 6, and I believe we had 8 the year before. Suicides, we had 25. And we had 26 and 24. So we're kind of staying about the same on those. Gun-related ones, we had 15 and 25 and 18 and 24. We've also had a couple more. I don't think I broke all of those down in 24, but for 25, we had a carbon monoxide one also. And then hangings, jumping, all of that type of stuff, but I didn't break that down in 24.
I know you've kind of given us the demographics on that before, and if I remember right, like the olders, we have a pretty good group of olders that commit suicide, and then we're seeing youngers, like
Yeah.
like tens is kind of,
Yeah, and that's
Kinda in those
that's
groups,
about
is
where
that-
we're at still.
yeah,
Yeah, same with drug overdoses. So they're,
same demographic.
yeah.
Okay.
So, let's see here.
Do you by chance on the, on the fall category, do you have the young and invincible versus the old and fragile?
Most of the,
where
so
do we
let's see
fall?
here.
Yeah.
So the falls for accidents, I didn't break that down, but the majority are those that either, there's some that we actually responded to the house, and that was what they died from was an actual fall or subdural hematoma. So that can get broke down from a lot to a lot of things also, but it's related to a fall that they had. And then probably the majority of those are ones that we took jurisdiction over for say they went to hospice and they had a lot of medical issues and stuff, and they were on hospice for something else, but they had suffered a fall, broke their hip, their back, something like that. So when we look at those, we look at the severity of it, and the elderly, once they have a fall and break their hip or something, they kind of plummet. So
Did you happen to, on the gun-related ones and the suicides, did you break those up? You know, the gun-related deaths and the suicides, are there suicides that were gun-related that were counted in the gun-related deaths?
In both
So
ca-
that's, so if you look, suicides are 25, and then I broke it down into what they were: drug related 2, gun related 15, blunt force trauma 2, jumping motor vehicle. So yeah, there was 15 suicides by gun.
I'm not seeing that.
Do you
So
not
you
have
have the
that?
mic
Is
on
it
the
on the
back
back?
page. I did
It's
see
on the
that.
back.
I had to look
There you
Oh,
at
on the
it.
back. Oh, I see it. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sorry, your guys' is on the back, so. And then, like I said, we've been really busy the beginning of this year. We've already had 15 autopsies. We had one weekend, I can't even tell you how many we had in one weekend, but on Sunday, we had 8. So, yeah.
8.
Eight deaths. So we responded to 5 calls, and 2 of them had 2 at each one. So my office has been very busy. So that I think is probably the most we've ever had in one day, but that's not even including, the rest of the weekend. Friday and Saturday, we also had a few. We're getting at least 1, if not 2 a day, or more. So. This last year, I know that I've talked about fentanyls, there's, kind of, we have different strains and stuff. Talked about the regular fentanyl, carfentanil, and the parafluoral fentanyl. I know last year I came in and I talked about the parafluoral fentanyl and how it was working its way up here. Well, we actually saw it last year. We had one case that actually tested positive for that. So they used to say that parafluoral was more potent than fentanyl, but now they're saying it's kind of the same, but it's more lethal. Well, I guess that's the same, but it's fentanyl is 50 times stronger than heroin and 100 times stronger than morphine. And they were thinking that the parafluoral was more than that. But it's also used to be called China white. So it was a higher purity form of heroin from Southeast Asia in the 60s and 70s. And so that's made an appearance in kind of, I think, the lower states, but it's heading up this way. And we actually had one of those.
Is that the one you showed us a graphic one time? It looked like a grain of salt.
I think I might have just showed you fentanyl.
Okay.
Yeah. And then carfentanil is even more potent. It's like
Even more than that.
10,000 times
Wow.
higher. Yeah. So it's none of them are good. And we're just seeing higher strengths now. So, and of course, medics and stuff are running constantly with overdoses and stuff. This is just what we're getting. So.
On that note, the methadone, that is people administering that to themselves.
Yeah, so they get it from the methadone clinic because they're trying to get off the opiates. And so they're either relapsing, they're taking too much, or they're going back to the fentanyl, and then they're also doing that. So.
Yeah. We're giving it to kill themselves. I'm not sure how that works.
Every time you think you figured it out, they invent a new way.
Yeah. Last year, or it could have been longer, we started doing our own blood work, and I'm just wondering how that's working, or,
Yeah, so we did, and then the machine had some issues, but we're still doing that. I think we got that fixed. So hopefully that won't, we won't have to send off to a lab that we actually pay for. And then we should be able to get things back quicker. And so they have it used to just be qualitative and now it's quantitative. So we can look at that in office and see, it doesn't give us the exact numbers, but it will give us a range to be able to see, okay, is this in a toxic level, or, are we going to have to, do an autopsy or something? So we have been able to bypass some autopsies because we're getting that information ahead of time. Yeah. Yeah. So
still trying to do some work in schools.
yeah. And we've done, we had our anthropologist come down and we did a training thing with the sheriff's department. And then we've done the Citizens Academy, and they've come through our office each year. And then classes with some schools. And then also I usually get invited to speak over at well, it's only been 2 years for the the overdose thing that they have over there at the Civic Circle. So we've been able to talk to a lot of people over there. So yeah. So we've been able to get quite a few things, and then we got the cribs for kids going, and that I think I had presented on that before. There's a thing on the website where people can go in and donate, and that just goes straight there. And then if somebody needs one, then they can come to our office, and then we would be able to purchase them through there so that they can have a safe sleeping area for their children. So the last part, I kind of broke down the autopsies and the costs and stuff from last year. So I believe we had 75, 3 of those were infants. And so, of course, with infants, we get 100% back of what we spend for them on an autopsy. And that's included the testing, blood, histology, all of that type of stuff. So we spent about $10,284.86, and we got 100% of that back. For the other ones, it was about $167,379.10, and so we get 40% of that back, and that was about just under 67,000 we should get back. And that when we submit them, it's like the first, well, every 6 months. So you're going to see that in 25, and then the second part of 25 actually doesn't get submitted until February. So that comes into 26.
Are the costs, is it a state algorithm that tells you what it is, or are you able to, or do we track it ourselves?
This cost?
Yeah.
I track it.
You track it?
Yeah. So.
And we tell the state this is our cost, and
Yeah. I
as
have
long
to.
as it's not outlandish or whatever. It's good with them?
So the autopsy costs, so whatever a pathologist charges, which they're
Okay.
they're not all the same. So I just keep track of all the autopsies, and then I have the amount that we pay for the pathologist, and then the amount if we have toxicology that we send off for, histology, all of that. I keep track of all of that.
Okay.
And so it'll give us a total at the end. And then at the bottom, it'll give us the 40% of that grand total.
So we actually get to reimburse our actual costs, not,
Yes, yeah, yeah. No, it's not, you can
You
only
get
have this
this for
amount or
this, yeah.
this amount, yeah. And we get it put in there, any toxicology, any x-rays, which we have our own x-ray machine. So we don't have a cost of that. Well, we do. But we don't, not like taking it over to the hospital and getting a charge for that. So.
Are you, is there an association within the state that you're part of that petitions the state to increase that 40%?
Yes. So we have the Washington Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners, and I am on the board on that. So, but I believe the forensics team is kind of the one that has set that. So it hasn't gone up from 40. I believe there's been talk of that for a while, but it hasn't. So.
any other legislation that you guys are seeing that is troublesome that you're aware of?
Well, we had kind of like the sheriffs were dealing with, they sent one of those to legislation, House Bill 2098. I can't remember the exact bill, but to make us appointed instead of elected also.
Elected?
But that one didn't go through. So, and that was being brought to us from one of the senators over in Yakima County because of the issues that they had with the Yakima County coroner, which is one incident compared to, the 39 counties.
I know, a
So,
lot of it's knee-jerk stuff.
yeah, yeah. Thinking that it was gonna save them money and stuff like that to, having to do a special election, which, I mean, you have one in X amount of years is, not anything compared to, taking the vote away from the voters to vote who they want in. So, yeah. And then we also have the PTSD bill. We're fighting for that one. Coroners and medical examiners are actually in the category as first responders, but not in the category of first responders that actually matters. So we are not in that where we get benefits and stuff like that. And we're right there. We're dealing with the worst of the worst, and we've lost a lot of good people because of the trauma and stuff that they see, and we don't get those benefits and stuff. So we've been fighting for that. And it didn't pass last time, but it's up again. So we're hoping that one will end up passing, so then we can get the benefits that the other ones do also.
When we talked last time, Dana, you mentioned that all I can think of is oncologist and anthropologist, and it's neither one of those. You're having a hard time in the state getting people to do autopsies. What do they
The
call it?
pathologist.
Pathologist, yes.
Yeah.
Is
yeah.
that still, did that get rectified?
So
We don't have an
actually,
issue?
that's another thing. They've had a pathologist study that there's multiple people sitting on, some from the association on the board, some medical examiners and stuff. So they've done a study to where they're trying to get funds to bring more pathologists into Washington so that we won't be so shorthanded. And that's trying to fund them to either bring them in or get them to study here with the incentive to when they're done, then they'll stay for X amount of time and work within Washington. I haven't been on that meeting for, I think, the last couple of times, so I'm not exactly sure where we're at on that one.
You would think that our government would figure out that if you got rid of the D-incentive to work here, that in and of itself is an incentive to work here.
Yeah.
That's why I'm kind of wondering, are we unique? I mean, people
No.
don't want to work here, or is it across the United States?
I think it's across the whole United States.
Okay.
Everybody's having
Scrambling for
issues.
pathologists.
Yeah. Even medical examiner offices, they have a pathologist come in, they have them leave. So it's hard to keep them. And the difference between a medical examiner office and a coroner is elected and medical examiner is actually appointed, and they are an actual doctor, and then they have their own pathologists within their offices. So, and those are the bigger counties: King County, Pierce County, Clark County, Snohomish, Spokane.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
If I recall, are we doing work for Wacaiacum?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
we had, I believe we had 18 last year,
That came
but
from-
not all of those were responded to. I think we maybe 5, 6 that we actually had to respond to.
Okay.
So, yeah. The rest of them were over the phone due to medical issues, and yeah, so.
Do we still have people coming and using our office, or has that kind of died down a little bit?
That's kind of died down.
Okay.
So we're not getting the reimbursements funding from that. We pretty much the only ones that we have for that are the organ and tissue bank when they come and procure. So so there's a fee to utilize the facility, but the other counties are not. Pacific County used to utilize us, but I think they've been taking them up to Thurston County. I'm not sure if not exactly sure why, if it's been more, you know, how it's split. So the northern
Yeah.
portion, maybe the majority of them have been up there. So it's easier for them to take them to Thurston. Plus Thurston has, I believe he just finally got an actual pathologist within the office. So he's got a pathologist there all the time. So, and they've been doing other counties. We have had Mason County come down because Dr. Luxina also does theirs. So sometimes when they have like a homicide or something bigger, then they'll ask to use our facility since it's newer and updated. So.
Dana, speaking of your facility, the last time you were in here,
Mhm.
you're talking about your cameras. Did
Mhm.
that ever get resolved?
Yeah, we have those. So
Okay.
it's nice. We can see all outside and then throughout the hallways and stuff. So that's been nice to be able to see. So
Just out of curiosity, how many Jane and John Doe's do we still have?
so we have actually, I think we only have 2. One is the one that we've had since
Forever.
yeah, the Native American that
Yeah.
we got out of the cemetery, and then still have not been able to identify her. So she's from 91. And then we have one more that was a train accident. So we still haven't ID'd her, but we've ID'd all the other ones. So that's nice.
And can you tell us the story about the one that you guys found in a clear cut? Can you talk about that?
That's still an open investigation. So, yeah, it was a homicide. So, yeah, but we did identify him, and we were able to get him back to his family. I think that they did put a press release out. Don't quote me on this. I can't remember exactly, but I think he went missing in 96 or 98. So he had been out there a long time. And unfortunately, his family had been looking for a long time. And then I think he has a half brother, and both of his parents are deceased. So.
Yeah. I'm struggling to remember this. We had people not claiming people
Oh,
in hopes that we would take care of it, and we were gonna try something about that.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about that the other day. I need to get that set up so that we can pass that. So, yeah, we have more and more, they're not technically indigent, they're just unclaimed because families don't want to have anything to do with it, or they just don't want to pay for it. So, and that is something that I wish legislation would enforce a little bit more, because basically there's no repercussions. So, I mean, there is, but nobody goes after them. So
Is that up to us or the state?
it would be up to us. Prosecutors would have to go after the family for repayment, but it would cost county too much, I think.
Sounds like they would like to have some teeth behind them from the state when they do that.
Yeah,
That's what it kind of,
yeah, it would be nice.
interesting. Anything else?
Thank
You
you.
know, I always enjoy you coming over and visiting. It's always kind of sobering, but I
Yeah.
enjoy knowing about your world because it is part of where we live.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And if there's anything that you guys think of that, that you want to know more about, or a topic or something, then I can present on that next time.
Okay,
So, right,
thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
Yes, sir. Sure.
Thank you.
The presentation's there on the share, but I think.
Yeah.
My name's Jeff Curry and I live in Silver Lake and I'm the chair of the Silver Lake Watershed Advisory Council, as well as one of the fire commissioners for Toutle Fire. And I joined this advisory council about 4 years ago and became the chair about a year ago when Gary Fredericks retired. So my background is in computers. I retired from Intel, did a lot of data analysis at Intel, managed a bunch of hardware and software engineers, love looking at data and spreadsheets. So the amount of data I inherited was overwhelming. And I enjoyed working with people in Silver Lake and on Toutle, collecting more data. But it's kind of come to a point where today I'd like to talk a little bit about where we're at and some suggestions on where we might want to be. Because I think there's a fair amount of frustration in the community. And we're losing members from the council, the council itself, based on frustration. We spent a lot of time out on the lake collecting. We get all these samples tested out, and we look at historically what's been reported by the various teams prior to us, what was collected through grants that the Department of Ecology came in and also collected data and did analysis. And we're just at a point now where how do we proceed and get any action, anything actionable? So we lean on the Silver Lake flood control. I don't know, it's a council or organization. They're in charge of the dam. And we get a grant from them every year that helps us fund the testing that we get through ALS labs. So that helps at least, once we collect data, we can send it to a lab that's reputable and give us the data points that we can put into graphs. And we share it in the community. Beyond that, everything we do is volunteer. pay for our own gas out on the lake, our own time, and it's kind of fun, you know, but a bunch of old guys get together and collect, and ladies collect data. The idea of going to grants to see if we can do something is overwhelming to all of us. We've looked at grant writing type things, but the challenge is that the management of the grants can't be done by a volunteer organization. It has to be done by the Department of Ecology or a nonprofit. So we're trying to do something about getting the community to get a nonprofit and see if they are able to go to the next step and have that a little bit more grounded in the community. One of the things that, you know, Silver Lake is, has a lot of homeowners around the lake, private ownership of the lake, you know, shared with Weyerhaeuser, Sequest. So we've got, you know, some visitors that are coming in. We've got a number of resorts that border the lake, and they're renting boats out, and people are using the lake for all kinds of recreational activities and boating and fishing and the fishing tournaments and boat races. So I think there's a fair idea that Silver Lake brings some tourism value to Cowlitz County. So to me, it seems like a reasonable incentive that we should do something to preserve the value of the lake and not allow it to continue to deteriorate, which data shows that it is getting worse. This last summer, you know, talked to a number of people along the shorelines. They can't get out on their docks because the depth of the muck that is around the shoreline is so deep that they can't take the boats out. So, you know, one of the things, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, is that we're like some of the other projects within the county. We would love the Corps of Engineers, or we would love to get some guidance on how we can dredge the lake as a possible way to mitigate some of the decline in the water quality. The water is we get flow in from a number of creeks, Sucker Creek, Hemlock Creek, and basically Outlet Creek is the, you know, exit when water's running, you know, in the winter. In the summer, you know, the lake basically starts to evaporate and the water just recedes, and all the hazards get visible by late July. And, you know, it's precarious to go out on the lake when you've got, you know, I take my grandkids out water skiing, and there's only certain spots that I'll take them because there's too many obstacles on the lake that are protruding, and I don't want to explain to my daughters why their kids get injured. So, and I'm not sure about the fishing tournaments. I observed one of the fishing tournaments late August that was down at Streeters. They were having a hard time getting their boats in and out of the water because of the condition of the boat ramps. Boat ramps surrounding the lake are terrible. They are they're not maintained. I talked to Fish and Wildlife. They own the one on Kerr Road, and pointed out that there is an organization that is defined. If you go down there and look at the boat ramp, it says it's maintained by Fish and Wildlife. Some of the folks I talked to weren't aware of that. So the boat races, there were boat races in the past, but I don't think this year they had one. Not sure why, but if this is just a sign that, you know, the allure of people coming to Silver Lake and getting their $100,000 boats out in the water and having it, or their trailers being destroyed because of our boat ramps, that can be frustrating. So that's going to that'll affect the bottom line of the resort owners around the lake and anybody who is, you know, has a vested interest in Silver Lake being a magnet for tourism. Yes.
Where is the muck that you described? Where is that coming from?
Well,
Getting into the lake.
the muck, you know, the muck comes from a number of sources. It's generally the phosphorus, which is one of the key minerals that is very prevalent in the lake, allows the algae to bloom, and it feeds off the algae, but the algae feeds off the phosphorus. There's a lot of carp in the lake that stirs up and creates more phosphorus based on the prevalence of carp in the lake. We've got both Asian carp, which was an experiment back in the 70s or 90s to try to mitigate the um, invasive grass that was in the lake that people were telling me. Forgive me, I've only lived here 5 years, so I'm a recent immigrant, if you want to call that. And I talked to all the old folks that lived around the lake, and there has been a lot of changes in terms of what's been done on the lake. Phosphorus has been a problem generally because the lake is relatively shallow. And so, and the watershed area seems to spread every year, even gets bigger and bigger. And that might be a thing that if we had someone like a lake management, either a company or individual that would be more familiar with how to mitigate that, it's definitely beyond my skill set. I love data, but I have no idea in chemistry and you know what could be done to improve the watershed. But since we're not able to actually address the phosphorus in an economical fashion, there are some chemicals that could be added to reduce phosphorus, but it's the size of our lake, it would be cost prohibitive. And it doesn't necessarily, talking to people that, like Vancouver Lake has a lot of phosphorus in theirs, and they've spent millions of dollars on alum to not reduce their phosphorus level. But basically, it came back. So one of the things that we're proposing, and this is from an engineering background, is that if we dredge the lake and we create more flow within the lake, the standing water that's there, because we're not allowing it to dissipate when there's, you know, high water. They've done things about raising the gates up on the dam to let, you know, dump some water out in February. We left the dam open for 6 weeks. We had the dam open when we had all the flooding there on Spear Lake Highway for about 3 weeks because there was so much water in the lake. It was overflowing. And there was also in 2018, when the county came out and put new culverts in on Spear Lake Highway, they reduced the lake water significantly so they could do the road work. The phosphorus had a little bit of effect, but it came back a year later. So we're just trying to see if there are solutions out there that could resolve the phosphorus issue and thereby reduce the overall creation of muck. There are chemicals you can put in the water, and some are supposed to be bio-friendly so that we're not impacting aquatic life, but it's always questionable, and the costs. It's amazing when I went to a conference 3 years ago down in Portland for all the other lake management society groups, and it was both the Oregon and Washington Lake Management Associations, and there was a number of folks from various universities and companies that came in and pitched the research that's been done and all the studies with different lake communities. After listening to the people talk about what they attempted to do and the level of success, it's overwhelming. If we did nothing, we're basically seeing the lake becoming a swamp. And I hate to see that happen. I live in Silver Shores Estates. I'm not Silver Lake Shores Estates. So we're not on the water, but we have, the association has 18 acres on the lake. So I'm down at the lake every day. I can take my dog down, and we have a boat dock down there that our neighborhood shares. So I'm very familiar with what is happening and when the water level goes up, and the kids can't swim down there because of the muck level. We put muck mats to float on top of the muck so we can get in our kayaks, because the muck was knee deep right there at the shoreline. So, you know, we shouldn't have to do that. There's like reports in the past. I mean, like see back in 75, they talked about solutions, and in each of these reports I read, dredging was always mentioned as a solution, but everyone viewed it as cost prohibitive. There was discussion about doing dredging about 20 years ago, and they started getting the permits lined up. And I might be doing this by hearsay, but from what my understanding was, someone mentioned that they had a source that would take the spoils, the dredging materials, and there were a number of farmers that said, we would love to take the dredging materials to enrich our farmland. And people said, well, can we make money off selling that? And as soon as they brought that up, the farmers said, hey, we would take it, but we don't have the funds to buy it from you. So that project failed because someone got greedy. So, to me, I'm looking at if we're trying to fix a problem, we've got to fix a problem in a way where getting the spoils, we can use the spoils to, again, augment farmland. Maybe the spoils could be used to fill in some of the watershed area so that the lake becomes more manageable. But again, that's going to require a consultant, someone to come in, and they want $50,000 to $100,000 to assess the lake and give us a plan. And there's been folks that have done that in the past. And it was maybe money well spent then, but since the solutions that were suggested were never acted upon, it was money lost. We're back to where we were almost 50 years ago. Again, these things that have been done, all attempted, the grass carp brought in, and they fixed the problem in terms of the amount of material that was floating in the lake. And I heard all the stories about how much the milfoil was in the lake, that it made it almost impossible to go across the lake without getting your props fouled with the thickness, how much that the weeds were overgrown. The grass carp cleaned that up within a year, but then they got aggressive and they weren't 100% sterile. So there's still grass carp in the lake to this date. They're just not making a comeback, but then the common carp they're prolific out there. Just going out to fishing. I would love to I used to bow hunt carp back in Michigan where I grew up. And it was a lot of fun, but
I don't see on this timeline somewhere in the, I want to say mid to late 70s, I believe, maybe early 80s. There was a company that wanted to harvest the peat moss out of the lake, no cost to the county, which they were going to take out between, I think, 8 feet and like 16 feet deep. That would have dropped the lake level somewhere between 8 and 12 feet on average, is what I recollect from way back when.
okay.
I don't know why that failed. I think that there was I know there was a big public outcry about it, that people thought it was going to screw up the bass fishing and all kinds of stuff at the time. But somewhere in the back of my mind, I remember this whole argument. I used to lived up there when I was in the 4th and 5th grade.
Okay.
And I used to go up there bass fishing all the time. But somewhere in that, there was a company that wanted to harvest the peat moss out of the lake. And I don't know enough about peat moss to,
I don't know what those are. So,
but I don't know if that was one of these things you've got listed on here or not.
let's see. I've got some other reports, but no, back in the 70s, no, I don't have that. It may be, I actually inherited 2 cases of files from a prior SILWAC chair from 40 years ago. I haven't had a chance to go through her materials yet. So it's on my to-do. Maybe it's something what you just described was in that list. A lot of this I inherited from Gary and, a few people that have been active in the last 10 years. But, and then there was an organization called Cowlitz. I don't know if that's familiar. That was another organization. They were the ones that were fairly responsible for the CARP grant and implementation of that one. But see, I mean, if something like that was thought about, I know there's a lot of emphasis on fishing, and I'm a fisherman myself, and I've caught a couple of bass out that they were 17, 18 inches, so they went back. But a lot of crappie fishing. There's a lot of fish in the lake. One of the positive things I read about Silver Lake is that the mercury level in our lake is much lower than other lakes within the state. So there's a guidance on how many fish, how many bass you can eat from the lake. And it's higher than most of the other lakes within the state because our mercury is lower. Bass get a lot of mercury accumulated because they're predator fish. So if we were in the same predicament as other lakes, there would be, much lower numbers. So I thought that was something healthy to promote, at least from the carp fisherman side. It's just that, and the other thing I've had to do with Fish and Wildlife is trying to determine whether or not lowering the lake 3 feet to go out and mitigate the boat ramps and docks and all the bulkheads around the lake and do a little lake cleanup. I've been in 3 meetings with Fish and Wildlife over the last 6 months, trying to determine a date and time and what would be needed to do that. And we're not at an agreement on when to do that because of the timing on fish runs. To try to do it, it would not impact the salmon, which I have yet to hear anyone on Silver Lake having ever caught salmon in the last 5 to 10 years. So very curious about fish counts and haven't been able to get Fish and Wildlife to tell me in their fish counting what's the percentage of salmon present in the lake, which goes up to 70 some plus degrees in the summer anyway. So I'm certainly sure there's very few fish or salmon at that temperature swimming around there, because the being a 9-foot lake in a lot of spots might be the deepest spots now. It gets pretty warm in the winter. Summer, I mean. One of the other things that we're exploring is looking to see if we can uncover some of the natural springs that will maybe included by all the muck. There's people that mentioned when they were swimming younger, 40, 50 years ago, there were cold spots on the lake, even in the summer. And that's an evidence of some kind of a natural spring. We went out there this last summer and did a kind of thermal map as much as we could do in the spots where people said, we recall a spot here that was ice cold. We mapped that all out and we couldn't find any temperature variance. So we're going to try this year, get some dry suits and maybe rent some scuba gear and go jump in the water, get in those spots with maybe with more active springs going on, and then see if we can manually clear some of those spots out to uncover it. That's a couple of us, just crazy idea, see if we can do that. But it's just a thought of what can we do to improve the flow in the lake, getting fresh water in the lake, but we can't do anything about the depth unless we can do something about dredging. So basically, the previous studies, like I said, they did everything they could to try to do algae growth. The grants we tried to apply for that we looked at, we never had enough. They had to have 3 reports of toxic algae to be able to qualify for some of the grants that would be available for us to go out and get funds to address some of the phosphorus levels within the lake, assuming that the phosphorus is the cause of why we have excessive algae growth. We didn't trigger the high enough levels of the toxic level. The lake did get closed in 2018 for a couple of weeks because the numbers were just borderline. So Department of Ecology closed the lake down. But last summer, we had a couple reports where toxic was out, families were down visiting, and their animals got sick because they went out swimming in the lake. They pulled their kids out, we couldn't get this was on a weekend, we couldn't get an active test taken when the algae was present. Because you get a lot of wind, it blows the algae loose and it's no longer concentrated enough to be considered toxic. So that makes it difficult if you can't show evidence that your algae has a possibility of becoming toxic to be able to get the grant. So we're back to other things that we could possibly do.
Is the
Um,
removal of the carp, is that as far as habitat improvement? Because there's just they're not gonna eat all the habitat that's in the lake? How is the removal of the carp gonna help improve the habitat?
Well, there was a study in Minnesota. We were touting that in our group organization that they did a carp removal process, and the before and after, they were basically saying that the phosphorus levels did improve when the carp had been removed. They're bottom fish. They stir up the muck. They defecate, you know. So you basically you've got and Fish and Wildlife, when they've done fish counts, the biomass from carp exceeds all the other fish in total. They're monster fish. You go down and I can see them around I have my boats down at Cowlitz Valley Wildlife League, and in the summer the carp are swimming all around the little docks down there, and they look like they're 10 to 15 pounders swimming all around the lake there, and they look brown. They look like brown carp to me, or common carp. So I know there's been talk about trying to do carp tournaments. They've done some of that in the past. I don't know how much they've removed, but this is many years ago. I haven't really had any success getting the fishing clubs to be interested in sponsoring something along that line. But it's just something that is one more item that possibly could be done. So I just got to call out into red. We're frustrated from an advisory council of what our purpose is if we're data collectors, but when our data that we collect can't have anything actionable, it kind of takes the motivation to want to go out and spend 4 or 5 hours during the week, collect the data, and then the other 4 or 5 hours to analyze it. And then get the test samples into the lab, get the results back a couple of weeks, generate a report. Yeah, we can pass the report up to you gentlemen, but that's what they've been doing for 10 plus years. And I'm just kind of looking at it myself and saying, okay, I'm gonna be 72 this year. I got a lot of grandkids that would love to see grandpa out on the lake fishing. My wife wants me to do less things and spend more time with her. So maybe this is one thing less for me to do. So I might be retiring from this particular task, but I'm giving plenty of notification to it. The few people that are still on the council this summer, when they come back in town, I will talk and see if I can get someone else to chair it and see if they have interest to maintain it or continue doing it. See, I've talked about dredging a bit already, kind of jump out on that. Yeah, increasing the depth of the lake would be a great advantage, because that's going to give some of the fish places to go when the lake water starts heating up. There'll be more spots for the larger fish to exist throughout the summer months, that we're not doing that with 9 feet of water. Especially if we can, initially what I was thinking was to do a channel almost from Sucker Creek, Hemlock Creek, all the way to outlet. So basically you create a nice trough that would allow that flow to go through the lake. And the rest of the lake, water's going to change, but we would then at least have a beginning that we could see if we start we test afterwards, if dredging the entire lake is going to be advantageous, and possibly getting funds to purchase the dredge equipment and then do this on an annual basis. So it's not a one-time deal. Just do it and maintain it and have an organization of possible volunteers, but get in a way of getting that lake and maintaining the lake. It's just a thought. So I've got data here that's basically showing the summer months is one of the peak. The red line there on that graph is the max values, what it's supposed to be. So anything above that is above the state standards for phosphorus. And, we never really get there. And then basically, here's my request. I'm just trying to, I respect your time, and I want to just kind of go, if we don't have if SOAC doesn't have an action-packed agenda, we can't get something done. What are we doing for the county, or what are we doing for our residents of Silver Lake if that is not perceived as valuable? And then possibly, this is a recommendation or request, if the county had an individual or that was responsible for lake management, whether it's a third party organizational company that they're chartered to do lake management and can follow whatever's necessary to address the problems that are being done, at least we have an intermediary that the advisory council could go to, and maybe the council that lake management group can do something in terms of working with grant organizations, or if it becomes a nonprofit available. I'm trying to get one going. I mean, I'm trying to stimulate someone to form a nonprofit from the community. And then I've also heard a rumor, and maybe this is proper, that there's some property around Silver Lake on the South Shore near Sucker Creek that Weyerhaeuser is selling. And it's not sure where that sale is going to, if it's going to go tribal community or to a private party. I don't know. But I don't know if it's going to be just preserved or if it's going to be developed. It would be ideal if we had, and then I know there's another individual who has developed, I think it's Jim Schreider. He has property, good number of acres at the south end, and he has a campground that he's built, and he has for private use. I would just think it would be in the county's best interest to see if we could either work with state or ourselves to develop a county park that would have community access or access so that the lake could be enjoyed by more than just the residents of Silver Lake and Toutle. And it becomes a magnet for more people to take advantage of the water. We go down the boat ramp now and you'll see I see a number of families that are down there. It's the only place to go swimming. But there's fish hooks and people trying to get their boats in and out of that boat ramp. And the kids are out there with their little waders, and you got to yell at the parents, get the kids out of the water. It's not a swimming pond. So, and having to swim on the river is not necessarily safe if the current's too strong, and then we're going to have to fish them out of the river if their kids get stuck in the river. So just throwing these things out there to see, I just wanted to present what I had to say. I actually originally, to be honest, Commissioner Dahl, I had sent it up to Kelly about wanting to meet just a one-on-one with you, because he and I've met in the past. Basically as my kind of, I wouldn't call it a resignation, but my motion or advance notice about, getting out of this, but I wanted to just kind of give you everything that's going on. So I do appreciate today having an opportunity to talk to all three of you, because I think Silver Lake and Horseshoe, we only have two big, water bodies within the county. Horseshoe Lake seems like they're busier than heck down there with families and all taking advantage of that, but that's, it's right on the border down there with Clark County. So, I don't know how much of our Cowlitz County residents that take advantage of it. So, and I know tourism's a big thing because we've got, tourism dollars. Oops, I should have done that. I tapped my phone. Okay. That was my last slide. Everything else is backup. It's posted up on your share. There's another 17 slides of data and other commentary. But again, I didn't want to overwhelm you with a lot of redundancy and kind of hammer in. But my the key takeaways today was just basically, we've done a lot of testing. It's all been done by volunteers. We would love to see some support from the commissioners on what could be done next. And if it's something that we need to come in with a proposal on exactly what that would be, I'd have to see what else we can get from outside the community, because the membership that's currently on the council, we don't have the expertise to try to come back with anything concrete. And again, I apologize for my lack of knowledge. I'm just, I'm a data guy, and I would love to see the lake get better. And I know you guys got lots of other critical things going on, and I can relate to how with the coroner medical examiner, to explain what's going on. I mean, it's near and dear to my heart because I'm, the other hat I wear is in the fire department, which we're very aware of things that are going on in the community and budget constraints. So I don't know if this is just a luxury item to be able to have a nicer lake to have, or it's just another way to get people maybe less frustrated with their lives, that can go out and enjoy nature and get out on the water, come back with a different perspective, and not take drugs or take their life. So that's all I can hope for.
Well, I agree with you. I think it's a valuable resource, and we live in a state where ostensibly we value our natural resources. We just don't fund anything to take care of them. As you were speaking, when I was back in DC last week, I spoke to two people who they are in charge of creating parks and getting money to create parks within counties. And I will pass that information along to you, and you can give them a call and see what their thoughts are on what we have available to us. But very good conversation, very creative thinking and ways to get stuff done. And they have funding available for projects to create parks with the counties.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Well,
Okay.
thank you again for your time. And
Thank you.
Good to see you
Okay.
again, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
my pleasure. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good to see y'all again. I know you missed me.
Couldn't wait
So
for you to get here.
I come with sunshine before the rain. It's the goal. So I have, Public Works has two quick items. The first item is the Tower Road Bridge Commerce contract. So it was probably before everybody's time except maybe Commissioner Dahl's. So when that happened, we tried to get an emergency declared. We were unsuccessful. We were successful because we went through the state legislature. And so we lobbied the state legislature, and we were granted about $2 million for the permanent repair. And so we've been working on getting that money secured, and that's this commerce grant. They take $5,000 off the
Oh,
top.
that's this thing here.
That is that thing there. So it's the commerce contract for they took 50,000 of it for the Commerce Department to administer the grant, but it's a $1.95 million grant to go towards the cost of that Tower Road Bridge permanent solution. So this face sheet, if you go to about the 4th page, gives the basic information on the grant. This is out for bid right now, and we've been working with them, and they've approved it out for to go out for bid. The grant is routing through DocuSign, and I just wanted to bring it to you guys to make sure that you're willing to accept this and that give Commissioner Dahl permission to sign it when it comes through his email. The basic general conditions are we go out, do competitive bidding, we comply with state prevailing wages, and that we operate and maintain the facility for at least 20 years, which for a bridge, we generally 75 to 100 years for us, and that we have appropriate insurance when we're doing this.
One thing I noticed on the face sheet, I don't know if you have an alias or not, but they have you listed as Sarah.
Well, they do.
Oh, so they do.
Or you have yourself listed as Sarah, maybe, I don't know, but.
They changed my name. Thank you. I will have them correct that. See what happens when I read things without my glasses?
Okay.
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 You guys are good. I will make sure that's routed, make that correction and get that routed through. And then we'll have it go through as a consent item once it's all signed. So the other item I'm bringing is the emergency contract we talked about both yesterday and earlier today. So it's the emergency contract for the leachate line repair with AES, asking permission for Commissioner Dahl to sign that so we can continue getting that working. I left it with Kelly if you guys are all good for that, good with that.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Based on the pictures, I think we got to get that
yeah,
quick.
so,
Yesterday.
yeah. It's too bad, but
yeah. All right.
I keep getting cha-ching, cha-ching in my ear.
It's been that kind of week.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to turn you over, unless you have public works specific, I will turn you over to Savannah for facilities.
We appreciate it, Sarah.
Oh, I do have one, yes. One quick question. Where are we on the Totof Road deal with Kalama?
So we did the call for hearing and it's scheduled for, I believe, St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. We'll do the hearing for the closure.
Okay.
I know Anna was getting it posted. I almost called her Sarah also. So Sarah's the name of the day.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, good afternoon, Savannah Clement, Public Services. I might recruit Sean to come up here because we did work on these together before he left, just in case you guys have questions on square footage or assets. We plan to go over high-level facilities and property overview with the board about a month ago, maybe more. The board had asked facilities to come up with a presentation to go over these items so that you guys could maybe factor these into some decision-making regarding the budget. Kelly, am I able to, oh, yay. Okay. So I was trying to be quick because I know there's a group after us and I was passing those out, but it was a distraction. So I apologize. Sorry, Susan. But what you have in front of you is a copy of the presentation that I'm showing today, as well as our 5-year approved capital facilities plan. And then also just the spreadsheet we use for square footage. Within my presentation, it does talk about some vacant buildings or floors of buildings. And so this just has those highlighted for your guys' reference after the meeting. So if you have future follow-up questions or anything, please feel free to get a hold of me. This is my first time doing this. I'm usually sitting over there, so. Nope. Huh? Kelly, oh, Kelly, you're doing it. I don't get to do it. Dang, okay, that's fine. Okay, so we're gonna start with, I broke this up into 3 categories. The first category is kind of some low-hanging fruit, things we can liquidate as far as properties go. And that's what we're gonna discuss first. So right now, you're looking at 3 vacant lots that we have right across the street from the Hall of Justice. We actually don't even have these in the assessor's parcel search. So I did not have square footage of the lots, but it is 3 city lots within Kelso, right there on the border. You can see the Bill Bonds house there on the left-hand side. And then I did define that on the map there on the left as well. So those are potential assets that we could sell. We are not aware of any future use, nor do we have plans in our capital plan to build or construct anything on those lots. So those would be something to maybe look into.
Is this where,
Oh, go ahead.
is this where the geo stuff is?
No, it is
buried?
not. That is not included on this because we have geothermal wells And the property you're talking about is actually on the map on the left. It's down from there. It's kind of what looks like that gravel, grassy area on the far left corner. That is where our geo wells are located. Really, I think aside from digging up all those wells and spending a lot of money, future use looks like honestly parking for the jail and for the Hall of Justice overflow. So we did not include that on this presentation.
Do we know why we purchased these lots in the first place? Do we have note of that anywhere?
That's a great question. At one point in time, there were homes on these parcels. They were removed as attractive nuisances at one point in time. The most recent one, I think, being 2019.
Yes,
Removed by us?
yes.
Correct.
That is
So we
correct.
purchased them with the houses intact.
Years and years and years ago, yes. And they became, as Sean mentioned, kind of a blight, and so they were torn down. Okay, I will continue on. So these are 2 vacant lots we have in Kalama. I have put plus or minus 1.77 acres because one of the lots actually doesn't, which is the one on the upper right-hand side, does not have acreage listed on the assessor's parcel search. So we're not exactly sure the how large it is. We can find out upon board direction, of course, or I can come back with that information. The one on the bottom left-hand side is the one that has the 1.77 acres. Do you have the historical on this, Sean?
Yeah, so these two, they're 2 parcels. They were purchased by the Road Fund Department for a project on an intersection of Greystone, I believe, Cloverdale. At the point in time the project was getting ready to go, the city annexed that area and the street no longer became our issue. And so we've held on to these for quite some time since then.
So these first 2, the 3 vacant lots, as well as this one, they have not gone through the official surplus process, which just means the county is going to take them off their books officially. That goes through the public hearing process, which we can of course do, but that would require board approval. So this next one we have has gone through the surplus process, which means we held a public hearing. We are able to sell it if we wanted to right away. And this is a vacant lot off Ocean Beach Highway. It's a lot of acreage, but it does have some considerable slopes. So only I think a small portion of it is buildable, but you can see in the picture, it is like a flag lot in the corner. So there would be access from the nearest road, which of course I didn't include this picture, but that would also be an option. This has been surplus. We could move forward quickly if needed.
And it's a little hard to tell from the map there to orient you to the property. This is directly south of Stordale's Longview Pit. So fairly close to the Coal Creek and Ocean Beach corner.
Okay.
Okay, so the next slide is actually 2 of our properties that have homes on them, and it's currently under lease with the Janus House. I believe we have about 4 years left on this lease. Not something that we could, unless the board wanted to, not something we could necessarily act very quickly on, but it's something to make you guys aware of. There are our properties, we own the homes and the parcels, and this is actually right next to that large lot that has the geothermal wells. Okay, so moving on, this next group I identified as kind of our main properties. So high volume, large square footage, filled with a lot of departments and divisions. But I put these in here primarily so that the board could recognize maybe some of the vacancies that we've had at some of these buildings, and if we wanted to use them as other space or move departments in, if we wanted to consolidate. And so the Hall of Justice, of course, that's the square footage. It's a tier 1 building, which means we have to comply with certain energy standards, and we have complied, yay. We're early adopters in that, and so that's what allowed us to get that grant funding here about a few months ago. Anyway, we have the entire 3rd floor, which was our old abandoned jail, which is vacant, which is a lot of square footage. It's 45,000 square feet. We also have the old 911 space that is right next to DEM, which is also vacant. And then, of course, the board is aware of our large HVAC and lighting replacement project. We have also several tenant improvement projects in that building. I'll say it, I think that building has come a long way in a short time, especially compared to when we first took on facilities. We've been doing tenant improvements, and by tenant improvements, that means carpet replacement, paint, lighting, cleaning. And at this point in time, I think within the next month or so, we'll have all of the carpet replaced and all, so we were still dealing with the green shag. I think you guys have seen those pictures. Anyways, so I think we've come a long way. I think that it's doing well. We'll say that. Hopefully nobody from the Hall of Justice is online to say otherwise. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on. Admin building, your home. We have some first floor vacancies. Noxious Weeds was approved to move over into the annex building, and so that space will be vacant as well. We have the old print shop that's vacant on the first floor, as well as some smaller conference rooms. We have some non-public facing divisions within this building that are currently housed in what could be public facing, so that does use some pretty prime real estate when we put non-facing, public facing departments in those areas. So that's something to think about. I'm trying to talk fast and go fast, but please feel free to stop me. We're looking at the facade repair, which of course the board is aware of. I think the board's also aware we're seeking congressional funding to help pay for that. We're also seeking some Washington State Historic Courthouse funding for grant support as well. So knock on wood, I'm feeling a little bit better about that. The last renovation of this building was in the late 70s. We did have a new boiler in 23. Oh, you know what I didn't include on here is the roof. Is that finished? Yes, technically it is. We're still dealing with that, but we have a new roof on this building. And then also we'll be looking at the Clean Building Initiative for energy efficiencies as well moving forward. Okay, next one is the annex building. It's currently, right now, as we speak, 100% vacant. However, Noxious Weeds will be moving into that west south corner, which is about 2,400 square feet of that whole first floor. It's about half. It did get a new roof, a new HVAC, and also has had the whole first floor remodeled. So each floor is about, each of those quadrants is about that 2,400 square feet. So that's a pretty good office space for most. So that is something the board could look at if they wanted to look at consolidating or moving other departments into that building. Unfortunately, the whole third floor is primarily used as storage. In the future, if the board wanted to look at revitalizing that space for office space, that could also be looked at. And that's about it on annex. Any questions on that one?
Noxious Weeds is going into 2,400 square feet. Is that what that means?
That is correct.
Do they have a planned date when they're planning on moving over there?
They just emailed me yesterday wanting to move, and we were still moving out of the PA's office. So they want to move in yesterday. So I'm trying to make sure that everything's ready to go before we move somebody back in. I haven't walked the space again. I'm just making sure yeah. So each floor is 4,800 square feet. They're taking half of it. So yes, that 2,400. That's correct. Okay. All right, the jail, not a whole lot of viability as far as selling, consolidating, but just so you're aware, we have roof section replacements. They're coming up. We also have a CTIP project, the only one that was really approved this year, which is the medical unit remodel to allow them to secure additional funding. Okay. Next one's juvenile. This isn't the first time. I think, this will probably be the 10th time the board's heard about our mounting construction needs, facilities needs at this building. We're at about 9.8 million, give or take. It needs a completely new engineered roof, HVAC controls, security cameras, access, flooring replacement, has outbuildings that need repair, the vestibule needs repaired, and then just miscellaneous throughout the building. So that building, I know within the last 2 years or so, we kind of did a facilities study on that with Edda, our architects, about some different uses, maybe. It didn't sound like that was feasible either with the cost and the amount of beds, which wasn't a lot. So we didn't pursue that per board direction. It is a large building on a large lot. And it's zoned for several things. I mean, it's actually technically, I think Sean looked into this recently, same zoning as the Expo Fairgrounds. So it could be multi-use. So any questions on that? Okay. The final item is our ancillary properties. And these are ones that aren't our kind of our main hubs. They're more of our smaller outliers. So Cowlitz County Health Department is about 11,700 square feet. We don't have a ton, they may say otherwise, but on our list, we don't have a ton of planned maintenance there. We just had a new roof put on. We did a parking lot within the last couple of years. So I think pretty soon they may be on the list, upcoming list for a new HVAC controls. So
Yeah, they're on the list for HVAC in 2030.
quite a ways. Okay. Another building is couldn't leave Cowlitz County Public Works off. That is an ancillary building. It's about 18,000 square feet. We don't have a ton of future maintenance needs there, with the exception of probably some heating and cooling control integration with probably a different non-proprietary vendor. So anyways, that's that building. We also have, moving forward, WSU Extension, which is right here to our north. It's about 8,500 square feet. We purchased it during COVID. I want to say 2021. We've done some electrical panel repairs, but for the most part, we have been pretty hands-off at that building. We haven't done a ton of maintenance on it, and nor do we have it really included in our 5-year plan. WSU Extension is housed in that building. They're really the only department that is there. They're vacant. The basement's completely vacant. That's 1,500 square feet. Second floor is vacant. It's not ADA accessible, so that makes it difficult. And then, it's been tossed around about, potentially using that if we're not going to rehab it or start doing some planned maintenance. It would be prime parking or a parking garage for this campus. Sorry. Okay. Any questions?
It'd be an old church.
It used to be actually, well, maybe, but it also used to be a funeral home.
Mhm.
That was my last known. And then it was a little overwhelming, and then we purchased it.
That's why we purchased it,
Correct.
to get level overwhelming out of there.
Okay, here's another WSU Extension property, county-owned property, but they utilize it. We call it Cougar Cottage, and a lot of people are like, what is that? This is Cougar Cottage. It actually looks way better than this picture. We did a new roof. We've trimmed back a lot of the trees. It looks a lot better because it also has, I think part of this also got that new ornamental fencing with the Expo PFD project. So anyways, it has a new roof, new fencing. However, we don't have any more planned improvements. And then there is a proposed lease moving forward. I think the board is aware of as well with WSU, that and the Master Gardener's Garden. So, all right, moving on. Courthouse Square. It houses primarily drug court. We do have some small vacant office spaces available. It's about 4,600 square feet. We did do a recent CTIP vestibule project there. Pretty much just making the building more secure. It was not secure at all. And anyway, so it needs a lot of work. It needs pretty much all new siding, paint, possibly windows, trim, a roof. It's been neglected for a long time. It also needs new flooring. It's not ADA accessible. So that is what is commonly referred to as Courthouse Square. It's right next to the jail. All right. We just have two more. River Suites, the board's aware of a very recent purchase, the first and third floors. That's where our OPD department is housed. We really have some minor things here and there, nothing to be really included on the capital plan. Things seem to be going well at that location. I will put it out there that we had talked about with the board in the future, if the board wanted to expand a footprint there, if floors become, available to purchase, that could be more of a legal campus as well, but that hasn't happened, hasn't come up. All right. I couldn't leave the most acreage off, which is the Cowlitz County Fair Expo and Conference Center. It's 47 acres in Longview. It's a multi-zone use. However, most, if not all, the land there is pretty locked down in the PFD's master plan. It has about 4 phases, I believe. We're in phase 1 right now, moving towards phase 2, which is also going to use that 7th Avenue property. And then future phases 3 and phase 4, which includes some equestrian updates. So property there's pretty locked down. We also have the RV parks on the south grounds, which are tied up with rural development funds. So, all right. And then the last one is just kind of some miscellaneous buildings I didn't necessarily include to go over with in depth, but just so the board has them, they are listed on our square footage report. So if you guys wanted to look at some numbers or comparables, that's available. Do you have any questions?
Sean, when you and I spoke, you mentioned that there were, I don't know if they were repoed properties that we had on a tax list or something.
So we have quite a few tax title parcels that were unsellable land during our foreclosure auctions. We would like to get those back on the roll and start that process back up for more effective transfer there.
And so currently with those properties and a number of these properties here that we own, like if we sold some of these, we'd get them back on our tax rolls and property taxes would be paid on those outside of the money that we would generate making the sale.
Yeah, correct. Outside of the sale of the parcel, we'd also have them
Yeah.
back on the tax roll annually.
I'd like to talk a little bit about tax title property. You know, they go through the foreclosure process of people not paying their taxes for 3 years, and then we auction them off. And that is all handled through the treasurer's office. I think a lot of people think we have like just this prime tax title property inventory, and looking at the properties that don't sell in foreclosure, a lot of them are harder to sell properties. They're not, I think, what some people in the community may expect. They're unbuildable, or we've had stormwater ponds get sold inadvertently. I mean, so it's like things that really, some of them could, and I'm not trying to be negative about it, but to be realistic, a majority of them aren't great properties. There are, I'd like to go over, I just don't have time, and I'm trying to be quick, but we do have within our GIS systems overlays of tax title properties. It's as well as county-owned and road-owned properties that would be available for the board to look at. They are down right now, or at least they were down this morning when I was trying to go through some of it with Sean. So that's also a tool that you guys could use, and we can send you those links. I can check on them, what the status is.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few of them.
There's a lot.
Yeah, and to your point about I understand it's not prime real estate. I
Mhm.
totally get that. So because of that though, do we have to share that? If we were to sell them, do we have to sell them at fair market value, or can we reduce them due to the fact that we just want to offload them and they're not
Do you remember the policy?
prime, you know?
There's an RCW tied to that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying
So,
to figure.
and if I recall, and I could be wrong if there's anybody online with the treasurer's office, but I'm pretty sure we have to at least do it from back taxes owed plus costs to record. At least that's what the starting bid is normally with. Yeah, for foreclosure, we have to, at least the county has to get their costs back, and that's normally the starting bid. If it's already gone through that process, then there could be some different avenues we could go as long as they've gone through the foreclosure process and didn't sell. There's also notification procedures of, I'll use you as an example. If you're living next to a tax title property that hasn't been sold and it's already gone to foreclosure, and you call us and say, I'd like to purchase this property, there's something that the treasurer does with neighboring properties. There's some legalities about that too, that makes it more advantageous for somebody living by one of these tax title properties. Say it's not a piece of land that anybody want to build on, but you want it because you live next to it and it's a nice buffer or something. So there's some things on that we can look into.
Well, thank you. I know I got some ideas on some things.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to bring up before I go, just seeking kind of board direction, doesn't have to be today, but anytime we're coming to these public meetings, if you guys want us to pursue something like seeking some fair market values on these properties, we can do that. We do have our on-call real estate agent, so we can assign them to do tasks like that. Things of that nature, we can look into that as well as the tax title property. We can come back and do a presentation on that too.
When you say there's a lot of them, roughly how many what number of properties?
For tax title?
Yeah. A dozen?
Oh, no, more than that.
I would say hundreds.
Yeah, there's one.
Hundreds?
Mhm.
Well, that's refreshing, isn't it?
I do want to clarify that though, because maybe it's a strip of a driveway, one half of a shared driveway between
Mhm.
4 homes, or private roads,
Mhm.
maybe
It's weird.
a corner lot of a intersection that no one can use. So, we have a lot of these small sliver pieces throughout the county, but then there are some additional, full-size lots that may have slide issues or maybe, all kinds of-
Flooding.
Yeah, there's a lot of different reasons why it's didn't sell during the process. If it was a valuable process or a valuable parcel, somebody would have bought it.
Who's gonna go out and bid on half of a driveway?
I would hope the homeowner who uses it.
Yeah, the person that owns the other half, right?
Right, and that's usually what we see when people have an
So
interest.
they would get like a first right of refusal on those types of situations.
Again, not to quote me on it because I could just be misspeaking, but yes, that's my understanding. There is a process on that if you're a neighboring property owner.
There'd be no inspiration to bid on it if you get to use it all the time until it comes up for bid, and then you have to get in the competition to get it.
Mhm. Yeah. So I think sharing those layers with the board will be helpful. You guys can look at that. You can, and it'll allow you to even look at the property like you would on the assessor's parcel search map. And then also we have one that has a FEMA layer and then a road zoned, so you guys can see, what properties are out there and who owns them from the county. Okay,
Thank you.
yeah. Any questions? Okay. All right, that's all I
Thanks.
have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kaylee. It's been a while. How are you? Good.
We don't get to see you in here very often.
You do too.
Right. Good afternoon. Kaylee McKay, Cowlitz County Auditor's Office. In front of you is just an update of the American Rescue Plan Act funding and where we're at currently. I don't have anything too crazy. I just wanted to give an overview to the board, and I did want to discuss, we do have Woodland here if you guys do have any additional questions once I'm done kind of explaining. But we just wanted to discuss with you, they are coming in under budget, and there is some of the project that won't be able to be completed by the end of 2026 related to Exit 21 specifically. They do have impacts on Exit 22, which is associated to the Exit 21 project, which it is covered under their contract, any associated costs. And they just wanted to bring to the board that topic because it wasn't specifically discussed when we first requested the funding through ARPA. But they would like to utilize the remainder of their funds on that Exit 22 overflow that's going to happen from the Exit 21 project.
And all this has to be spent by the end of
This year,
end of this year.
yes. Yep. They are on the revenue loss side also, so it is more freely spent money. Yeah.
So is this gonna go, is the remaining funds gonna go into more studies for Exit 22?
No studies, correct? Or it's the engineering cost for Exit 22.
Yeah, so with the remaining costs of Exit 21, we'll reevaluate that at Exit 22 with preliminary design to see if we can add some slip lanes, try to do some.
This is ARPA funds?
Yes.
Yeah. And there's so the green light, there you go.
Perfect. So yes, we were allocated the 2.6 million for Exit 21. It was identified with biological assessment requirements that we wouldn't be able to progress to the full extent of the existing contract. With the remainder of the remaining funds of that 2.6, we would like to start a study for Exit 22. We noticed that there's going to be a mass use of 22 once 21 goes under construction. So we'd like to reevaluate an assessment on 22 to see if we can alleviate some of that stress.
I thought that I don't know, is this shifting of funds from one project to another? Because I thought those had to be dedicated
Yeah, so we are already in contract with Woodland and it's costs associated with the Exit 21 project.
Okay.
Do you think, because we allocated 2.6, if these numbers are up to date, we've spent about 800,000, right?
Correct.
I guess where I don't want to get is in November, we find out we still have 1 million left and it just ends up going back, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so that is why I wanted to, this is revenue loss, so it's any governmental purpose. I could cover costs in the general fund if there
Okay.
was a
So
remaining.
if we get towards the end of the year.
Yep,
And they've got their stuff done, but there's still a balance there, we still can,
yep,
okay.
yes.
Okay, is this saying that we have 4.3 million unused that's sitting there?
The 4.3 is on the direct qualification side. That is only cash. So everything has been allocated. So there is 4.3 cash still sitting there on the direct qualification. Yes. Which is, for the most part, all of these other than we do have a little bit of capacity left on the ARPA management. So every year I do pull wages from some general fund positions that help with ARPA management, and I move the ARPA funding back into the general fund to cover those costs. We have a little bit left over in there. Outside of that, though, it is mostly it's mostly the public works projects that have the remainder on them.
I'm all for you guys using it for whatever you need it for.
Yeah.
It's there.
You're gonna have to figure that intersection out.
It's a
I mean, that's,
fiasco.
my only concern was that I didn't want to get to the end and then it goes away,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah, the revenue loss side is very flexible. We have the ability, ARPA did release guidance as well, that if for whatever reason, obligated funds were not able to be spent, the board does have the ability to go enter into a new contract. Anything else, or again, it's revenue loss side, so I can use it for any governmental purpose, which is pretty much everything.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I'm good with it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
And then outside of Woodland, we have any other questions on any other projects? Like I said, it is mostly just the public works projects that we're down to in Woodland.
So all these end of 2026 is the date?
Correct. Yep.
So I must not be understanding something because I can't imagine that the government would let us allocate 4.3 million to cash and it's just sitting there. Am I understanding that correctly?
So when we say allocate, it just means that it's been entered into a contract. So the federal government did allow us to invest all of the cash that we have on hand. So they fronted the full 21 million to Cowlitz County. We were able to invest it, and I keep all funds unspent in investments because I am able to take those investment earnings at the end of the year and I put them back into the general fund. So allocated just means that it's in contract, and cash is just letting you know the exact dollars you still have left for ARPA to be spent. Does that make sense?
That's where you're holding it until they send us a bill and need it.
Correct. Yes. So we got all the money fronted.
That makes.
Sorry, yes.
Yes, it did.
Yes.
I don't think we're just got this money sitting.
All the projects are reimbursement based, and then we received all the funding up front. Yes, sorry.
Okay, now I understand.
Yep.
It's a little confusing because most of our projects, a lot of things we see are reimbursement. We have to do it and get reimbursed for it.
This is the first grant I've ever touched that
Yeah,
operated
where
this
they
way.
actually sent you the whole thing.
Yep, especially
Yeah.
21 million.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anybody else having trouble spending their money?
As of 6 months ago, there were counties that were struggling to find projects that were eligible. But I think that we got really lucky that you could claim up to the 10 million and we qualified for that. So that helped us a lot on the revenue loss side. Because direct qualification is obviously much more difficult. So we only had 11 million where we
Tell 'em
had
we'll give
to.
them 25 cents on the dollar and take care of it for them.
Yeah, yeah, we'll figure it out.
So all of our funds are spoken for. We're just waiting for them to be cleared.
Correct.
Okay.
We're gonna have it all spent by the end of this year?
Oh, one way or another, I'm gonna get spent.
So, yes, if I had known we were talking about this today, I would have had I have the whole list of when everything's going out to bid and timelines. I guess I just kind of a question for Woodland. We have $1.8 million and you're just doing a study?
No.
Well, that's what that's why I was asking, because you said you've spent 800 and you're looking for exit 22 and you're doing a study was what I heard. That's why I'm asking. And it's going out to bid and it's going to be constructed by the end of the year?
So
Well, it
this
has to be
is,
spent by the, sorry.
yeah, so the 2.6 million that was allocated for exit 21 is for the initial study and then engineering. So that's what we have Kittleson here for a presentation if need be for that, where that is in correlation of where the money's spent and how much is left over to be spent by the end of the year.
So we're talking roughly 200,000.
So, but, oh, so not your sheet that says 900,000.
My sheet is the total overall project for the contract with Woodland. It
Yes.
doesn't break down any further than that.
But it says they've spent 900,000 and it's 2.6, which means there's 1.8 left to spend by the end of the year.
Correct.
So my question was, if we're just looking at a study and we have
We're not
1.8
looking at the
million.
study. The original project is still going on. And it'll cover everything except for 200,000 is what they're asking for the exit
So they're going
22
to
piece.
spend $1.6 million this year
Yes.
Correct.
on a study.
No.
The engineering for exit 21. And then
And
the remainder amount, 200,000 is for the study for exit 22.
okay.
Submitting roughly $70,000 to $80,000 a month for the next exit 21 public engineering is moving forward. We're asking for exit 22 to a whole nother team to also be working forward. So we're working. Okay.
We have not seen much in that was my questions, because we've had this money out there for engineering for quite a while, and now all of a sudden you're saying you're going to spend 1.6 million in 9 months approximately.
That is what our presentation was designed for today. But we have preparation to spend the remaining of the contracted amount plus to reallocate for the entire scope of the project for 22. So to redesign for when 21 goes under construction, what can we do for 22 to alleviate that extra need?
Pleasure of the board.
So the way I am understanding what you're saying is the 1.6 that's remaining is going to be used for 21's project, but there's going to be $200,000 left over.
Roughly.
And that 200,000 is what that 200,000 is what you're allocating towards exit 22's study.
Correct.
The 200,000 alone.
Yes.
Correct.
The remainder of that is being used for engineering and construction going into 21, or
Yep.
just engineering costs?
For the engineering costs, correct.
And we'll have it done by the end of the year.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll be at 90%.
Correct. We will be at 90%. At 90%, we'll go into biological assessment, which is about a 2 to 3 year turnaround on review time.
Does that meet all the requirements for the money?
Yes. And
Okay.
again, I just want to stress it is on the revenue loss side. So worst case scenario, the county is set up in a good spot that we can move those fundings when we get down to the wire if we need to.
Okay.
Whose responsibility is it to ensure that as this project is going on, that we're meeting the requirements necessary for this funding?
So they send me documentation on a monthly basis that I go over and review before I reimburse them for anything. Any other questions? Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, thanks. Well, miscellaneous. Was Commissioner Farrell in when we were, are you okay? I think we're all okay sending out that recommendation letter he was talking about this morning to reappoint those two commissioners, the Fish and Wildlife.
Yeah.
We're all good with that? Okay. I couldn't remember if he was sitting here when we were talking that or not.
Yeah.
The other thing I had on miscellaneous, last week, we kind of delayed looking at Paul Hellenberg, putting him on the facility district to see if the other person ever applied. The other person never applied. So that position is open.
Okay.
And if you're all comfortable with, I think you all know Paul.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are two things. I might go real brief on what Jeff was talking about, and I can pull the document. The Silver Lake Watershed Advisory Council was put together by the county by resolution. It's kind of think of it as the precursor to the collaborative. When it was initially set up, it was supposed to have representative from Army Corps, from DNR, from Fish and Wildlife. And then the collaborative said, let's take a longer look. We should look at the whole structure. So the collaboratives actually come into place. And this one is really, if you look at the resolution, it really doesn't do what it was initially set to do. It's turned into more of a homeowners association type group. I actually talked to Jeff one day about why don't we just get rid of this? Because really what you're asking has to go through the collaborative, but they kind of want to hold on to it. So that's just kind of a little history of that thing.
So are they kind of like an advisory board at this point?
That's what it is. We set it up as this, so it's an advisory council for the county because we set it up by resolution, but it was set up with Army Corps and really it was kind of the first stab of what a collaborative should be to deal with all that. And then it was before my time. I don't know when they decided, well, we need to expand that and look at the whole river. So then the collaborative came into effect and now Army Corps and stuff, everybody deals with that and not
participating with the original group.
Right.
Okay.
No. So that's more for information, just kind of a history of how that came about.
The unfortunate part about that is we're struggling with the Army Corps to get them to dredge a river that we have to have done. The lake is definitely not something that we can entertain.
We have the ability by resolution to disband that because we don't use it that way anymore, but I tried to talk them into making that decision themselves. I didn't really want to take stuff away.
I think Silver Lake's got great potential. I mean, my goodness gracious.
And Jeff's done a ton of work. They've gone out and took core samples and sent them off to all this, this stuff. And he wants to get back in his scuba suit and find these things. So he's done a lot of work. I give him credit.
I think I've got a Silver Lake map that was a hand-drawn map by a gentleman who was 90 years old, and it was drawn up 40 years ago.
Yeah.
It shows all the old crappie beds and bluegill beds and the whole lake was hand-drawn. I'll have to see if I can find that.
Yeah.
And see if it marks the springs on it.
The old timers will tell you, they'll point out the way the lakes change. They'll go, yeah, we used to ice skate over here,
I remember when the lake used to freeze over. I can remember a couple of spots where you could identify the springs real easy because that'd be the one place where there was no ice.
Yeah.
Because it was moving water.
Yeah. I don't disagree with him. I think it's an asset and it'd be nice to do something with it. It's hard to work through. We don't have responsibility for it. It's kind of hard to work through the system, but I don't disagree with him. Anyway, anything else? I think we covered everything, right? Okay. We will adjourn. Thank you.